Hey everyone, it's Neil here. I'm the General Manager of ChildSafe and I'm speaking with Kaylene Kerr. She's the founder of eSafe Kids, and it's an organization that equips and educates and empowers people, as in children and parents, to have the tricky conversations about the tricky topics. I'll get that right. Hey, thanks so much, Kaylene, for joining us. It's really a privilege, and thank you again for donating your time. We've been doing a bit of a video series, one a week, um, just leading up to Christmas, and we thought we would do a Christmas special, okay? That's where the music starts and the jingle bells happens and all that sort of stuff. A Christmas special, right? And a particular topic called personal space and body autonomy. Now, I just want to set the scene for you for a second, Kaylene. Okay, everyone comes into the home, and the kids are lined up ready in their lovely Christmas sweaters, and the grandparents are walking in, and the parents are saying, you know, you haven't seen these guys in ages. Make sure you give them a big kiss and a big hug and things like that. And the kids are going, I don't really feel comfortable in that. I haven't seen them for a long time. I don't want to do that. I'd rather go and play Xbox right now, whatever it is. What is personal space and body autonomy? Because I've got a feeling that relates to this.
Yeah, so within the context of teaching children body safety or protective behaviours, as it's sometimes referred, it's child abuse prevention education. One of the topic areas that we spend a lot of time on is a topic area of personal space. And this is teaching children that when it comes to their body, that they're the boss. Kids are really not the boss in most aspects of their life. When parents or teachers tell them to do something, in most cases, they need to listen to their parents or listen to the teacher. But we teach children that when it comes to their personal space and their body, then they are in charge of who they give affection to. Oftentimes when children see grandparents, particularly if they haven't seen them for a long time, we and grandparents can be inclined to really force children into physical affection that they may not be wanting to give. Now, perhaps ideally, all children are super excited to see their grandparents, and they race in there and they give them a great big cuddle. It's a real squishy one. And you know what? Everyone will be really happy. And the child's happy, the child's wanting to do that. And that's what matters. But sometimes, and it can change 100 times in a day with children and adults as well, you know what? We don't always feel like hugs. Sometimes we're just not wanting to hug. We don't want that really close personal contact. And that's okay. So we're teaching our children all year that their body matters and they're in charge of their personal space, and that people need to respect their body boundaries, except when it's time to give the grandparents a hug. And we're giving our children really inconsistent messages. So we need to keep it consistent and just let the children know that they have choice and control about what level of affection they give someone. So if they want to go right in there and give them that great big squishy hug, then absolutely. But if they're not feeling that on that day at that time, then that's okay. Maybe they just want to do a quick hug, and it's one of those ones where you just kind of hug and release, or maybe it's a kiss on the cheek. Maybe it's not that level of physical affection. Perhaps they might just give them a high five or a handshake or a fist bump or an elbow bump or whatever. And maybe they don't actually want to have any physical contact, and perhaps they just pop their hand up and say hi. And that's okay. But oftentimes what happens is parents might then start to use language that essentially is coercing children into giving physical affection. Go on, give grandma or grandpa or whomever a hug. They haven't seen you for ages. Or you're hurting their feelings by not giving them a kiss or a cuddle. And that really is inconsistent messaging for our children. So we just give them the choice. If you want to give grandma or whomever it is a big kiss, cuddle and squeeze, then you can do that. But if you're not wanting to do that at that time, that's okay. If you change your mind in half an hour or by tomorrow, then that's okay as well. It's just giving kids permission.
So what would you say, let's say 5 things to notice about a child that might be thinking that might be displaying that they don't want any physical contact with these
Yeah.
people?
Okay, well, I guess maybe the first one and the one that's easiest to pick up will maybe be words. So if a child is indicating with their words, well, no, I don't want to, or I don't, feel comfortable, but kids will just generally say, no, I don't, I don't want to. That's probably the easiest one. But we need to be teaching our children, and as adults, we can practice this as well, is also reading nonverbal body cues and body language. So if a child is in that space of having some physical contact with someone else, and they're really leaning into the cuddle, and they're squeezing back, and or kissing back, and they're really you can see that they're really enjoying that, then that gives you a pretty good idea that kid's enjoying that and wants to be doing that. But if you have a child that perhaps is a little bit hesitant about moving into that physical contact, or a child that when they're, sometimes when grandparents kiss you, I remember my granddad, he had really rough whiskers, and I thought
Yeah.
that he smelt funny. And I remember, and I only saw him every couple of years because he lived in another state. And I remember that I'd often be like, ew, gross, and pushing myself away. And so, that is giving some non-verbal or verbal cues that, just not so comfortable with that at that time. If children are, moving away from someone, or you can just see that they're really fidgety and apprehensive about that, then as adults, that's where we can step in and say, oh, buddy, I can see that you're not really in a hugging mood at the moment. That's okay. When you're ready to give hugs, then you can come back and give grandma a hug. So look for the verbal, but also just observe those non-verbal. And you know what, if a child's kicking and screaming, they're letting you know pretty clearly that at that moment, they're just not into it.
Fantastic. Now, as I said, it is a Christmas special, okay?
Yes.
So there's one thing that happens at around the either beginning of November, heading into the middle to end of December, and that is the old Santa photo. Now, I was one of those that would sit on the knee and those sorts of things, and my kids would do that, and I know that there's been some photos where it doesn't look like they're enjoying themselves. So what can parents do to make sure that the child's body is respected and that space is respected when it's kind of like hard to do when you've got a Santa that is right there and there's only this much room for a photo?
Well, I guess ideally start the conversation before you get to Santa. So that could start in your home a couple of weeks or a couple of days beforehand. Hey, we're going to get our Santa photos on such and such a date. You're going to be putting on whatever nice clothes you've got. And you know what, when you get there, you've got a couple of options. You can sit on Santa's lap if you like. You can have a conversation with him. And if you're not comfortable doing that, then you can stand next to Santa, or perhaps you'd like me to sit on Santa's lap as well. So first of all, I guess ideally start a conversation with your child. So you're just setting them up for the experience, but you're also letting them know that when it comes to the actual day, they've got some choice and control about what happens. So that would be ideal. Not everyone's going to do that. So then when you are there to have the Santa photo, you know what, some kids are just, they're very comfortable and confident, and they jump up on Santa's lap. I have one of those, and he would give Santa his life story and tell him his very long list of things that he would like, and he loved it. Like, oh, he just glowed when he's talking to Santa. My other son was not like that at all. He would be kicking and screaming and yelling if I forced him to do that. So I just didn't. So I have 5 years of Santa photos where one child is not in the photo, and that's okay. The reality is, Neil, is that we teach children across a year that they're the boss of their body, that they're in control of their body and what they do with it, except when I want to get the Santa photo. And then often what you might hear is, if you sit on Santa's lap and you smile, I'll buy you an ice cream. Or if you don't stop crying and making a fuss, I'll this. And so then suddenly our children are being coerced. So there's lies or there's bribes involved. And it just, across a child's lifetime, we're just giving them such mixed messages. So as much as we want the Santa photo, we might just have to accept that it's not always going to be the child snuggled up next to Santa smiling at the camera. Perhaps it might be the child standing next to Santa. Or perhaps you're going to be standing with the child next to Santa, or you're sitting on Santa's lap and the child's sitting on your lap. Giving our child some choice and control, and doing that without any threats or bribes or coercion. And it might not seem a big deal to parents, but for a child who is learning about their body and that their body matters, and that, you know, that they get to choose the level of affection that they give a family member, a friend, someone at school, or Santa, we can't give them mixed messages. So that would be my advice.
Fantastic. What a great Christmas message for parents.
Yeah.
Especially leading up to Christmas. Thank you so much, Kaylene. Really appreciate that. And we hope that everyone has a fantastic Christmas.
Yeah. And Neil, do you know what? This Christmas, it might not be such a big deal because I've just booked my son's Santa photo. And this year, because of COVID, there's actually no sitting on Santa's lap here in Australia. Everyone's going to have a socially distant Santa photo. So, you know what? Again, there's a conversation to have with children about, you know what, this year we're not sitting on Santa's lap for, you know, health reasons, but you get to choose next year if you'd like to do that.
It's fantastic. Putting the power back in the child's hands for those personal space and body autonomy. Thank you so much, Kaylene. We look forward to seeing you at the next video. Thank you.
Okay.